Hey guys, welcome back to MTG Alpha. Anthony here, and today I wanted to go over my most expensive deck, if we're not including the reserved lands that I have in my Corval deck. This is also probably my most powerful deck, and surprise, surprise, that would be Urza, Lord High Artificer. So Urza is a 4-mana 1/4. When Urza enters the battlefield, create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token. With this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. Tap an untapped artifact you control to add 1 blue mana, and you can pay 5 colorless to shuffle your library, exile the top card of your library, and until end turn you may play that card without paying its mana cost. So yeah, in just artifacts in general, producing lots of mana. Pretty overwhelming. Mono blue, pretty oppressive. Very easy to activate Urza's third ability multiple times in a turn. The first ability is just like a cool benefit because it ends up being just a big creature. And then that second ability, tapping an untapped artifact you control to add blue, that generates lots of mana, and all three of these abilities synergize with each other. There are ways to abuse Urza. There are very obvious ways to abuse Urza that everybody most likely already knows. But yeah, I just wanted to go over quick my deck. Yeah, so this deck is a lot of fun to play. So we have, let's start off here. We have Darksteel Forge. Artifacts you control are indestructible. All right, so that's pretty good. Mycosynth Lattice. This is a combo piece, but also in of itself, it's a very good artifact, 6 mana. All permanents are artifacts in addition to their other types. All cards that aren't on the battlefield, spells, and permanents are colorless, which makes it easier for even your opponents to cast spells if they're playing more than one color. And players may spend mana as though are mana of any color. Static Orb. So this and Winter Orb. These are the two most busted cards in Urza. All you need is Urza and Winter Orb. As long as Winter Orb is untapped, players can't untap more than 1 land during their untap phase. Players in Static Orb, players cannot untap more than 2 permanents during their untapped phases. So yeah, we can on our turn, like we can tap this on our opponent's turn, or tap it on their end step, like at the end of their turn. So that way, when we untap it on our turn, then... Wait. So as long as it's untapped, players can't... Yeah. So we're tapping it down on their end step. And then on our turn, we can untap everything. And then we're going to keep it untapped on our opponent's turn. So that way they can't untap 2 permanents and they can't untap more than 1 land. Yeah, I don't know. Just the being able to tap an untapped artifact you control to add blue whenever you want. It's pretty crazy. It definitely feels like really oppressive. It feels bad. I don't really seek out to play these cards and play it as a combo in that sense, but it happens. It feels good, but it also feels bad, so try not to do it all the time. Mechanized Production. Enchant artifact you control. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a token that's a copy of enchanted artifact. If you control 8 or more artifacts with the same name as one another, you win the game. So the idea would be to create a token that's a copy of like a mirror or something like that, just producing a bunch of mirrors or thopters or something, and which is very easy to do. So really any artifact is very easy to create multiple copies of those in a game with this deck. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, create a 1/1 Thopter. So these are all the token generating cards. So Mere Battlesphere would be something that I would like to enchant with Mechanized Production. When it enters the battlefield, create 4 1/1 colorless mirror artifact creature tokens. When it attacks, you can tap X untapped mirrors you control. If you do, it gets +X until end of turn and deals X damage to the player or planeswalker that it's attacking. Very, very cool. Very fun card. Mirrodin Besieged. So when it's a battlefield, you could choose either one of these abilities. I usually choose the first one. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, create a colorless mirror artifact creature token. With all these tokens, we can tap them down for mana using Urza's ability. Then we can shuffle our library and start casting cards off the top for free. And we can also play any other like crazy higher CMC card that we have in the deck. But you also have the ability, you could choose Phyrexian at the beginning of your end step, draw a card, then discard a card. Then if there are 15 or more artifact cards in your graveyard, target opponent loses the game. So you could play it that way as well. And the card advantage is okay, but there's just better ways to get that in this deck. Artifacts you control have hexproof. That's pretty crazy. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control the artifact with the highest CMC or tied at least, you get to draw a card. Lots of card draw in this. So these are the like card advantage sort of cards in the deck. So Mystic Forge is great. You can look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast the top card if it's an artifact or a colorless non-land card. So planeswalkers. And you can tap it to pay a life and exile the top card of your library, so you can just get some things off the top of your library if you want to just kind of like keep the gas going. Draw cards equal to the highest CMC among artifacts you control. It's very good. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, draw a card, also good. Antiquities of War is cool. Look at it. So first chapter, look at the top 5 cards of your library. There's that card advantage. You may reveal an artifact card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any random order. It's very easy for us to shuffle our library so we could rearrange some of those cards that we put down there. So not really concerned about that. And we're getting 5 deep. We get to look 5 deep into our deck to get some good stuff. Artifacts you control become artifact creatures with base power and toughness 5/5 until end of turn. That would be the 3rd saga. So we get to activate, we get the benefits of the first saga on the first turn, the turn we cast it, the second turn, and then the 3rd chapter, all artifacts we control are 5/5, base power and toughness. So all of those tokens that we've been producing are now 5/5s in addition to whatever counters or buffs we have on them. Whenever you cast a historic spell, scry 1, so that's artifacts, legendaries, sagas, those are all historic spells. We get to scry and we get to kind of get that good stuff out there. Brainstorm, draw 3 cards, then put 2 from your hand on top of your library in any order. Preordained, scry 2, draw a card. Weir of Invention, X and 3 blue. Very easy to generate lots of mana in this deck, so X and the mana cost is easy to pull off. You could also improvise. You can tap an artifact to pay for 1 colorless. Search your library for an artifact card with CMC X or less and just put it directly on the battlefield at instant speed. It's a really, really good card. It's a really good tutor in this deck. Arkham Dagson, really cool card. You can tap it, target artifact creature's controller sacrifices it. So let's tap this, and then let's sacrifice a Thopter, and then search our library for a non-creature artifact and put that directly on the battlefield. Really, really kind of busted. So these are the tutor cards. Trophy Mage, when it enters the battlefield, search for an artifact with CMC 3, reveal it, put it into your hand. So CMC 3, that would be the static orb. So basically we have 2 static orbs. Not really, but we get a double increase the chances of us at least getting that out of the deck. And then Treasure Mage, search your library for a artifact with CMC 6 or greater. So there are some of them. I don't know if we've gone through any yet. Yeah, we haven't quite gotten there yet, but trust me, there's some really good artifacts in this deck that cost CMC 6 or greater. Very cool. Fabricate, search your library for an artifact, reveal it, put it into your hand for 3 mana. Pretty standard tutor, very good card. And then so we have ways around removal here. Pongify, destroy target creature, can't be regenerated. Instant speed, its controller gets a 3/3 green ape. In mono blue, it's nice to have cards that, you know, I don't want to fill up my entire deck with counter spells. I'll admit there are some pretty gnarly counter spells in this deck because, like I said, this is my most expensive deck. If we're not including the reserved list lands that we have in Corvold. This isn't just naturally my most blinged out, most powerful deck. So, but it is nice to have like just ways to destroy creatures. For 1 mana at instant speed in blue, it's pretty cool. Of course, Cyclonic Rift, 2 mana, return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand, and it has an overload cost of 7. And you get to return all non-land permanents you don't control to their owner's hand. Feels pretty bad, but it's pretty standard with Commander. I think the power level of Commander has been increasing along with just the overall power level of cards in Magic that they've produced. Just Magic is becoming a more, I don't know, it's a much stronger format, more powerful formats, even in casual like Commander. All is dust. Each player sacrifices all colored permanents he or she controls. A bit of the Nambo with what is it, the Mycosyphilitis that makes them all colorless. But yeah, so just don't cast it if you've made everything colorless. But we can sacrifice all of our colored permanents, that's fine, and then just keep the colorless cards, which are a majority of the cards in the deck, and then a one-sided board wipe. Or everything we have is indestructible anyways. Well, that doesn't get around the sacrificing. There's another combo somewhere in here that we'll get to it. Polymorphous Jest, 3 mana instant speed. Until end of turn, each creature target player controls loses all abilities and becomes a blue frog with base power and toughness 1/1. I really, really like this card. I'm not really a blue player, so I like cards that are like more unique and interesting and fun, and I think this is a fun card. It works out very well, honestly. All right, so here are the blue cards. All right, so we got Mana Drain. Pretty nasty. Counter target spell at the beginning of your next main phase at an amount of colorless mana equal to that spell's converted mana cost. So we got ramp and a counter spell all in one. I threw in just that vanilla 2 mana instant speed counter spell in here because I pulled this beautiful looking Japanese alternate art full foil counter spell. So I had to slip it in something. Felt like my mono blue deck would be the best place for it. So that's why that's in there. Disallow. I've tried so many times when looking for a card to take out in my deck, I've thought about taking this out because everything else is just a little bit more difficult to decide on. But this is just a good card no matter how you look at it. It counters a spell for 3. Okay, sure. But how many spells can also have the ability to counter an activated ability or a triggered ability? It's really good. It comes in handy in some really unique situations where you wish you had this card. Pact of Negation, it's a free counter spell and you pay 3 at the beginning of your next upkeep or you lose the game. Mana, generating mana, costing mana it's just paying for mana is not an issue in this deck. So Pact of Negation's fun. This is one of the beefy artifacts we have in this deck. So yes, we do have some just fun, crazy stuff to do. Platinum Angel, 7 mana 4/4. You can't lose the game and your opponents can't win the game. This deck isn't at all built around playing this card. It will more than likely get destroyed within the same turn or the next turn that I cast it, but I just love this card. This was such an appealing card to me playing the game as a kid, and I had a few copies of it somehow from when I first started playing, so I just can't let go of this card, and I love to play it. So even if I play it and someone removes it immediately, it's still fun to do. Platinum Imperion's another one. These were the 2 cards that just appealed to me so much as a kid. I'm sure it appeals to everybody. Anything that says your life total can't change and you can't lose the game and your opponents can't win the game, like those are like sensational, like ooh. 8 mana, 8/8. Your life total can't change. Not really paying life. There are a couple instances where we want to pay life, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't really affect. But what is pretty crazy though is like when we have hexproof and artifacts are indestructible, then these things become much more powerful. That's pretty fun. Emery Lurker of the Loach, 3 mana 1/2. The spell costs 1 less for each artifact you control. This is a 1 mana 1/2 essentially. When it enters the battlefield, put the top 4 cards of your library into your graveyard. Why? Because we can tap it and choose an artifact in our graveyard and cast it this turn. There's a lot of graveyard incursion with artifacts centered with like the artifact themes, And artifacts, we're seeing a lot more of that in like the red, you know, like Boros or whatever, red, white, Lorehold or whatever it was. But yeah, that's kind of like a theme with the artifacts. Like they can't really die. You could keep bringing them back from the graveyard, which is cool. Phyrexian Metamorph, 3 and a Phyrexian mana. So you can pay it with either blue or 2 life. So it's either 4 or it's 3 and 2 life. Enters the battlefield as a copy of any artifact or creature on the battlefield, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. We can copy our own artifacts or creatures, make our creatures that are non-artifacts artifact creatures, or we could copy our opponent's commander, or just anything. And with the added benefit of it possibly having hexproof and being indestructible. Master Thopterus, this was originally the commander in this deck until I managed to find myself in Urza. And it's significantly better for 1 more mana, but 3 mana, 1/4. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. You can pay 2 to sacrifice 2 artifacts and draw a card. So if you absolutely need to, we can tap 2 Thopters, use that mana from, if we have Urza, use that mana to sacrifice those 2 Thopters and draw a card essentially for free. Master of Ethereum, a 3 mana. Power and toughness equal to the number of artifacts you control, which ends up being a lot, and then other artifacts you control get +1/+1. Shimmermere, 3 mana, 2/2 with flash. You may cast artifact spells as though they had flash. This deck is very, it's very like, I don't know if it's like versatile is the word, but like, it kind of covers everything. You got flash, hexproof, indestructible, tokens, generating mana, drawing cards. A 0 mana 1/1 because this can be a, you know, a ramp basically, a little ramp. I mean, 0 mana 1/1 is great. Anything that says whenever you cast an artifact spell for 0 mana, we're going to be able to do that, draw a card or create a token. And also we can pay 0 and put it on the battlefield and then tap it for blue, which is really, really crazy. It's really crazy. Memnarch, a good high CMC artifact creature, 7 for it's a 4/5 for 7. You can pay 1 and 2 blue any number of times. Target permanent becomes an artifact in addition to its other types, and you can pay 3 and a blue any number of times to gain control of target artifact. So if we have a bunch of mana and we want to dump it into something, we can, if they're not already an artifact, we can make our opponent's permanent artifacts that includes lands, and then we can pay 4 to gain control of it. All right, so Planeswalkers. Karn is part of the combo here. Activated abilities of artifacts your opponent's control can't be activated. So with Mycosynth Lattice, we make everything that they control an artifact, including their lands. All permanents are artifacts in addition to their types. So now everything that they control is an artifact. So their lands are artifacts. They can't activate the abilities of their lands. And then the other abilities are okay until your next turn. Up to 1 target non-creature artifact becomes an artifact creature with power and toughness equal to its converted mana cost. So we can make Mycosynth Lattice a 6/6. And then the last ability is irrelevant. You may choose an artifact card you own from outside the game or in exile, reveal that card and put it into your hand. Mostly irrelevant. The other Karn, just a fun little, fits the theme here. 4 mana and enters with 5 loyalty. Reveal the top 2 cards of your library. An opponent chooses one of them, put that card into your hand and exile the other with a sliver counter. So card advantage while ticking it up. -1, put a card you own with a sliver counter from exile into your hand. So we can get that other card that they wanted to kind of stall us on a little bit. But -2 to create a 0/0 colorless construct that has +1/+1 for each artifact you control. I really like the cards like that in this deck because there are a lot of artifacts in this deck, and it's good to have a creature that gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Ugin the Ineffable, 6 enters with 4 loyal, and then colorless spells you cast cost 2 less to cast, so there's some ramp in there. Exile the top card of your library face down, and you can look at it, create a 2/2 colorless spirit creature token, and when that token leaves the battlefield, you get to put that exiled card into your hand. -3 to destroy target permanent that's 1 or more colors. That's kind of like an Ugin thing, right? Ugin the Spirit Dragon. I don't like this card. It's really annoying. So I put it in my deck. It's 8 mana, enters with 7. You can +2 to deal 3 damage to any target. You can -X. Exile each permanent with CMC X or less. That's 1 or more colors. That's a pretty nasty board wipe. -10, you gain 7 life, draw 7 cards, put up to 7 permanents from your hand onto the battlefield. We don't really need that ability because we can easily cast things from our hand and put things in the battlefield. So it's just overall just a nasty card. And yeah, it does everything that this deck does all in one card. It's pretty cool. Tezzeret. I think there's another Tezzeret Planeswalker that I really want. I'm not sure what it's called. I don't remember in the top of my head, but there is a Tezzeret that I'd love to get my hands on and maybe throw that in here if I have room for it. But Tezzeret Artifice Master, 3 and 2 blue, enters with 5, +1 to create a Thopter. 0 to draw a card. If you control 3 or more artifacts, draw 2 cards instead. So 0, draw 2 cards, basically. As many times as you want. You get an emblem with, at the beginning of your end step, search your library for a permanent, put it on the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. You get an emblem that does that. So it doesn't go away. So if you can activate that ability, you're going to win. You're definitely going to win in a few turns. Omniscience, because why not? I have one and don't know what deck to put it in. So let's put in my mono blue artifact deck that generates lots of mana pretty easily. 7 and 3 blue, so it's a 10 mana enchantment. You may cast spells from your hand without paying their mana cost. All right, so here are some newer cards. I don't know how many other cards. I think as far as like upgrades go, these are the more recent ones. Nettle Cyst, 3 mana artifact equipment. It has a living weapon, so when it enters the battlefield, you create a 0/0 germ token and attach it to it. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control, and you can pay 2 to equip it on any other creature you wish. I really like cards like this that make creatures that get bigger for each artifact I control, because in this deck, it really benefits. Cauldron Complete. Everyone was super hype about this, and it is a good card. And what better deck to put it in than an artifact deck where I can cast it very easily. 7 mana, living weapon again, create a 0/0 germ, attach this to it. This thing itself is indestructible. It is an artifact, so we could also make it hexproof and double indestructible. But equipped creature gets +5/+5, has first strike, trample, indestructible, haste, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a creature, exile that creature. And you can pay 7 to equip it to something else if you'd like. Pretty cool. Haven't played it yet, but pretty nasty. Unwinding Clock. Untap all artifacts you control during each other player's untap step is busted. People get, so this deck generates so much mana, and with Urza, we can pay 5 to activate its third ability, shuffle your library, then exile the top card until end of turn. You may play that card without paying its mana cost. So with Unwinding Clock, we can do that multiple times in a single turn. Then we can do it multiple times on each of our opponent's turns. And it kind of feels like we're just playing with ourselves at that point. But hey, I guess that's what this deck does. Trinisphere, happy to get my hands on it. It's okay. I mean, it's good. It's definitely a good card, don't get me wrong. But I kind of forced it in here because I had it, and I didn't just want it sitting in a binder. So as long as it's untapped, each spell that would cost less than 3 costs 3 to cast. As long as it's untapped. So again, we can tap this down so that way its ability is irrelevant when we want it to be. So that's cool. Sculpting Steel, similar to the Phyrexian Metamorph, I believe it was called. 3 mana artifact. When it comes into play, choose an artifact in play, and if you do, it enters as a copy of that artifact. Crawl Space, no more than 2 creatures can attack you each combat. 3 mana artifact, pretty cool, slows the game down. Very oppressive in this deck because the power level is pretty up there, so it's not really necessary. Vidalcan Orrery, you may cast non-land cards as though they had flash, so similar to Shimmermere. Skyclave Relic, so these are going to be our rampy cards. This deck only has 28 lands, and that's because of the amount of ramp. I'm telling you, generating mana is super easy to do in this deck, and Yeah, even at 28 lands, I mean, yeah, definitely 28 lands is good. If anything, I would probably swap out some of the lands that produce colorless with some extra islands just so I can get some more blue while I have a bunch of blue cards in this deck. But besides that, casting things is effortless, and you'll see why. Skyclave Relic, 3-mana artifact. It's got a kicker of 3, so you can pay 3 any number of times. It is indestructible, and when it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, create 2 tapped tokens that are a copy of Skyclave Relic, and then it taps for 1 mana of any color, which is great. No, it doesn't have multi-kicker. So kicker, you just pay it once. My bad. Yeah, multi-kicker, you can pay it any number of times, and then it benefits it. But Ornithopter of Paradise is a newer card. 2 mana, 0/2, very easy to cast with things that reduce the cost, which I think we'll get to. Cards that reduce the cost of artifacts. This ends up being a free spell, and it's a flying, and it taps for 1 mana of any color, so why not? Immortal Sun, 6 mana, legendary artifact. Players can't activate Planeswalker's loyalty abilities at the beginning of your draw step. Draw an additional card. Spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, and creatures you control get +1/+1. Very, very good. If we have a Planeswalker in the battlefield, kind of a nombo, but the other benefits help that out anyways. Forsaken Monument, colorless creatures you control get +2/+2. Great. Whenever you tap a permanent for colorless, add an additional colorless. Great. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, you gain 2 life. Very versatile. Cloud Key, enters the battlefield, choose artifact, creature, enchantment, instant, or sorcery. So we can choose artifact if we want. Most of the time, yeah, probably almost all the time. Spells you cast of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. Metalworker. Okay. So I got very, very lucky and came across this card. 3 mana, 1/2. Tap it, reveal any number of artifact cards in your hand, add 2 colorless mana to your mana pool for each card you reveal this way. I haven't had a chance to play it. Really, I did play it once or twice, and it was immediately targeted, which is fair. But very good card. Boundary Inspector, artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Nyx Lotus, enters tapped, choose a color, add an amount of mana of that color to your devotion to that color. So again, I can probably take this out of the deck, but I have it, so I figured why not? Not everything in this deck is in here for peak performance and synergy. Some things, are okay in the deck, and it's fine. So Nyx Lotus is that. Jeweled Lotus is not that. It's a 0 mana, tap, sacrifice, add 3 mana of any one color, spend this to cast your commander. If you have a god hand in this deck, you can cast Urza on turn 1, and you can pop off and start doing stuff real early in the game. I think I can average like getting Urza out very, very quickly. I think turn 2 or 3, and then popping off within the next couple turns. On average, doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. Thrawn Dynamo, tap, add 3 colorless. Mind Stone, tap, add 1 colorless, or pay 1 colorless, tap it, sacrifice it, draw a card. Jorah's Familiar, historic spells, that means artifacts, legendaries, and sagas cost 1 less to cast. Gilded Lotus, 5 mana, colorless, add 3 mana of any one color to your mana pool. Artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Ethereum Sculptor, it's a 2 mana 1/2. Soul Talisman, it's a soul ring, except it has to spend 3 and 1, so you pay 1 colorless, and then 3 turns later you get to tap it, cast it for free, and then tap it for 2 colorless mana. Mox Opal, 0 mana artifact, tap, add 1 mana of any color, activate this ability only if you control 3 or more artifacts. Very easy to do. Mana Crypt, which this isn't the one that I pulled from the mystery booster box that I just got. I think this one I had traded a whole bunch of cards for it. So I did end up with 2 of them, but 0 mana and taps, adds 2 colorless. At the beginning of your upkeep, flip a coin. If you lose it, lose the flip, it deals 3 damage to you. So Blink Moth Urn, at the beginning of each player's pre-combat main phase, if Blink Moth Urn is untapped, that player adds 3 colorless for each artifact they control. Lotus Bloom, 0 mana, suspend 3, sacrifice it, add 3 mana of any one color. So More lotuses. What do we got? Gilded Lotus, Lotus Bloom, Jeweled Lotus, Nyx Lotus, Soul Ring. We got Urza Saga. It's pretty flavorful. So enters, you can tap it for colorless, and then it also gains the ability afterwards that you get to pay 2 to create a colorless construct. Again, I really like that sort of thing. And then pay 3, search your library for an artifact card with mana cost 0 or 1. So there's a lot of those. Soul Ring, the Mana Crypt, the Jeweled Lotus, the Mox Opal. And if we already have all those on the battlefield, then we can just find something. Memnite, why not? So yeah, these are the lands. I only have 28 lands. I'm just going to go through these pretty quickly here. War Room, taps for colorless. You could also pay life equal to the number of colors in your commander's color identity. So that's 1. So pay 3 and 1 life to draw a card. Platinum Hyperion, if you can't pay the life, then the ability doesn't activate. We have some islands here. Artifact. This artifact landed. It counts as an artifact on the battlefield. Inkmoth and Nexus, because it's a 1/1 artifact creature with flying and infect. So if we can beef it up, I guess we'll win with infect damage. Gemstone Caverns. Crystal Vein, taps for 1 colorless, or you could sacrifice and add 2 colorless. Another island, some more islands. Urza's Factory, pay 7 to create a 2/2 assembly worker. Ancient Tomb, tap for 2, deals 2 damage to you. We got the Urza's Tower and the Urza's Mine borderless, but I don't have the power plant. So I am looking out for that so I can complete the cycle. Tower, power plant, and then the mine. Lonely Sandbar, Inventor's Fair, Zulfarin Void, Darksteel Citadel, Artifact Land, taps for colorless, Castle Vantris, Academy Ruins, pay 1 and a blue to tap it, put target artifact from your graveyard on top of your library. Some more islands, Shrine of the Forsaken Gods. You could tap it for colorless, or you could tap it for 2 colorless if you control 7 or more lands. Spire of Industries, very good card. Taps for a colorless, or you could tap it, pay a life to add 1 mana of any color, as long as you control an artifact. Buried Ruin, Mishra's Factory, Power Depot. This is a newer card, pretty good. And Teleria West, it has Transmute 3, so you can discard it, search your library for a card with CMC cost 0, reveal it, and put it into your hand. So yeah, that's my Urza deck. Urza Lord High Artificer. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, and thanks for all the support, and please like the video. Make sure you subscribe for more content, and we'll be doing more giveaways in the future. We're just hit like 300 subscribers, so thank you guys so much. I appreciate that, and until next time, see ya. Peace.